My God, I trust in me. Let me not be ashamed.
No boosts are available. Turret is active at Charlie.
What is going on, everybody? It is your boy Nothing But Skills, and today I'm bringing you another Division video. Today's video is going to be a build video on a build that is dear to my heart. This is probably one of my favorite builds to run. I want to say this is probably the most underrated and underused build in 1.8 because everybody wants to run Nomad, Strikers, Predator's Mark, or even Alpha Bridge. But don't sleep on this build, guys. This build is still an amazing PvP build. As you guys saw in that video, you guys probably already know it's a sniper build. So which one is it? Hunter's Faith, Sentry Call, Skull MC Gloves, or Deadeye? Well, we'll talk about that in just a second. Before we get into the video, guys, I want to say thank you guys for all the support. You guys are amazing, and without you guys, I wouldn't be here. If you guys are new to my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up. And as always, guys, if you have any questions after watching this video, use the comment section down below. So let's get into the build, guys. So the build I am talking about is Deadeye. Probably one of my favorite sniping builds to run, and I think this is probably the best console sniper build you can run. Now on PC, Hunter's Faith might be a little bit better. I still think Deadeye is more user friendly. So we're gonna break down what Deadeye does. So in case some of you guys don't know, I only run 5 pieces. I never run the 6 piece. So I'm only gonna talk about the 5 pieces and the 6 piece that I use with it. What Deadeye does is set 2 bonus is gonna give you that 40% initial bullet stability. Set bonus 3 is going to give you an additional 20% marksman rifle critical hit damage. And then set bonus 4, Deadeye. When zoomed, marksman rifle loses headshot bonus but gains 50% critical strike chance when out of cover and then 100% critical strike chance when in cover. So as long as you're in cover, you're always going to be hitting critical hits. So that's why it's key to stack as much critical hit damage on this build as possible. Set bonus 4 is going to give you an additional 40% initial bullet stability. So that's 80% initial bullet stability. And then it also gives you an additional 20% marksman rifle critical hit damage. That's an additional 40% marksman rifle critical hit damage. Now set bonus 6 is too situational for me. So that's why I never run it. I'm not going to go into that in this build video. Now when you look at this build, you're going to see my firearms is 10,000. That's primary firepower of 309,000. My toughness is 340,000. That's stamina of 2,900. And then I have skill power of 114,000. That's electronics of 2,900. If we go into the build, you're going to see my chest. It's roll firearms. It has health. It has enemy armor damage and has ammo capacity. Now, a lot of you guys might ask, why did I put enemy armor damage on here? Now, even though enemy armor damage is focused more towards PvE, stacking that enemy armor damage is still going to give you a little bit harder of a hit on a player. So even though it doesn't really affect us like it used to, enemy armor damage is still great to stack on your Deadeye build. And the great thing about it is if you want to run this same build in PvE, you can, because you have already stacked enemy armor damage on your build. For the mods, I'm running firearm mods with health. For the mask, it's roll firearms. It has enemy armor damage. It has damage to elites. Like I told you before, even though enemy armor damage is focused towards NPCs, it's still going to let me hit a little bit harder on players. It's the best major attribute you can put on your mask. You don't need to stack any critical hit chance because once you're in cover, you get that 100% critical hit chance and then you always get that 50% critical hit damage. For the mods, I'm running firearm mods with health, and you're going to see that on most of this build. I'm trying to stack as much health on my mods because I don't have that much toughness and I just want to be able to survive if someone is shooting me from distance. For the knee pads, the roll firearms, they have critical hit damage. The minor attributes are disorient resistance, burn resistance, and bleed resistance. Now I kind of wish I had some kind of shock resistance on here, and then if this was going to be a PvE build, you wouldn't want to put damage to elites down here on the minor attributes. For the mods, I'm running firearm mods with health, and then performance mods with 2% post critical hit damage. For the holster, the major attribute is skill haste. You could put health on here if you want. I felt that having just a little bit of skill haste might help my post come back a little bit quicker and then also make my booster shot come back that much faster. The mods I'm using are performance mod with 2% post crit hit damage. For the gloves, they're rolled firearms. They have critical hit damage, marksman rifle damage, and critical hit chance. Now this is the one piece on my Deadeye that I want to replace. You don't have to stack that 6% critical hit chance. I wish I had enemy armor damage right here. If I had the perfect roll gloves for Deadeye, they would have critical hit damage, marksman rifle damage, and then of course enemy armor damage. Now for the one piece that isn't a Deadeye piece, it's the specialized backpack. The reason I chose to use a specialized backpack is because what specialized does is it adds 200% of your firearms and your stamina to your skill power. That's why with only 2,900 electronics, I have skill power of 114,000, which is pretty good when you want to pop your booster shot and you want to use your pulse. The major attributes on this are critical hit damage, and the minor attribute are burn resistance. You want to stack critical hit damage on your backpack and on your knee pads so you can max out that critical hit damage that this build can do. The mods I have are firearm mods with health, and then of course performance mod with 2% critical hit damage. I stacked 2% post critical hit damage for a total of an extra 8% critical hit damage. As you start to see, it's critical hit damage here, critical hit damage there, and that adds up to give you that max amount of critical hit damage you can output. If we get into the weapons, I'm running 2 M700 carbines, and I'll explain to you in a second why. You don't have to run 2, you can run an SMG as your secondary or assault rifle, but most of the time I'm not gonna be that close to people to fight them, and even if I am, I'm gonna try to shoot them with that M700 because it's gonna hit the hardest, and hopefully I can one-shot them or two-shot them before they can get close enough to kill me. For the first M700 carbine, which is my primary, it has 169% headshot damage. The base damage is 172,000. The talents I have are deadly. Critical hit damage is increased by 15%. Prepared damage is increased by 15% when more than 30 meters from the target. And when you're sniping, hopefully you're more than 30 meters from the target, so that way you're not having anybody rush up on you and you have time to snipe them before they have a chance to gun you down. And then the third talent is a talent that I'm going to have different on both M700 carbines. It's competent. Weapon damage is increased by 10% for 15 seconds after using a skill. Now, the reason why I like having competent on there and not having elevated is because a lot of times you're not elevated enough to get elevated active. So competent, as long as I pop my booster shot or I pop my pulse, I'm gonna have that extra 10% damage and I can be leveled with the other player. I don't have to be above 1.2 meters from the target. I can be on the same street as them, in cover behind a bus on the same street, and I still will have competent active. And before I go into I'll have it modded, let's talk about the second M700. It has the same headshot damage, it has the same base damage because they are the same exact weapon. I just bought them at this vendor reset. If you haven't bought that weapon just yet, in the link above me, you're going to see where you guys can get it. So click on that link if you don't have one. But I picked up 2 of them. These are the same exact M700 carbines that I have on me right now. And the talents are the same, deadly, prepared. And the third talent is a talent that is different, elevated. Increase your damage by 10% when elevated more than 1.2 meters above the target. So that's why I like having 2 of these. That's why sometimes I don't have to worry about popping a pulse or popping a booster shot. I will always have it active with elevated. If I happen to be above the players, I'll switch to the sniper rifle that has elevated. And then if I'm on the same street, I'll go back to competent. So that's why I don't really like running an SMG or assault rifle. Some of you guys might not like that because if someone comes up on you, most likely you will die, or you just need to run and then get to another location where you can snipe them. So I'm going to show you how I have this sniper rifle modded. I have a C79 scope. It's a 3.4 scope. I think it's the easiest scope to snipe with. I stack it with critical hit damage alone, and then it has stability and accuracy. So it has 19% critical hit damage, and then 2.5 stability and 2% accuracy. For the suppressor, it has 19% critical hit damage, and then it has optimal range and stability. As you see, I have nothing else on there, just critical hit damage, since critical hit chance and headshot damage are nullified with the Deadeye setup. For the small grip, again, I have critical hit damage, accuracy, and stability. And then for the extended magazine, I have magazine size, critical hit damage, and rate of fire. Now you could put one that has critical hit damage and reload speed, whatever you want on here. I just choose to have a bigger magazine, so I recommend having magazine size, and then of course having critical hit damage. So you want to stack critical hit damage on all 3 mods, and no critical hit chance or headshot damage is needed on this build. So extended magazine has critical hit damage, the small grip has critical hit damage, the suppressor has critical hit damage, and then the scope has critical hit damage. And that is the same thing I have on my other M700 carbine. Now, since you aren't really running with anything but sniper rifles, you could find a better sidearm. I haven't really played around with it too much. I'm just using this tactical M1911. It has a base damage of 36,000. It has expert and harmful on there. I could pick up a different sidearm that maybe hits a little bit harder, maybe a double barrel shotgun, something like that, that if someone comes up on me and I hit them at least once with my sniper rifle, I can gun them down with my sidearm. But that's up to you guys. You guys find the sidearm that works best for you. So for the skills, I'm running a tactical scanner. It's going to come back every 49 seconds, and the critical hit damage is an additional 21%. Now, if you want something that's going to come back a little bit quicker, but it's not going to have as much critical hit damage, you can even go with the recon pack. That's still going to give you almost 20% critical hit damage, but it's going to come back every 33 seconds. If you really want to, you could run a scrambler so no players can see you if they hit their pulse, but the critical hit damage is going to go down a little bit more, and that's at 18% critical hit damage, and then your cooldown is going to be 45 seconds. So I choose to run a tactical scanner because it's going to increase your damage towards players by using this one, plus you're going to get that additional 20% critical hit damage but it only comes back every 49 seconds. Now I pair that up with a booster shot. This is gonna give me a self heal of only 54,000. It's gonna come back every 45 seconds, but it's gonna temporarily increase my damage and damage resistance every time I use this. That's why I love popping this, popping my pulse, and then aiming down the sights and sniping players because they will drop. Now, if you don't want to run a booster shot, you can run an overdose. This is going to heal you for around 90,000 and it's going to come back every 49 seconds. So it comes back a little bit slower than your booster shot at 45 seconds, but you're going to get a lot bigger heal. If you want to run a Deadeye build, I really recommend you running a booster shot and then running a tactical scanner, because the point of this build is to put out as much damage as possible from distance, so you shouldn't have to worry about people coming up on you. Now, if we go into the stats, you're going to see my critical hit chance is 6%, and that's because of the gloves. You want this to say 0%. You don't need to have this on here. Now, my critical hit damage is really good at 175%. My headshot damage is at 169%. So the critical hit damage is the only thing you need to keep an eye on for this Deadeye build. I'm at 175%. Damage to elites is 9%, which isn't too bad. You could get this a little bit higher by stacking some damage to elites on your knee pads if you want to run this build in PvE. And then of course it has enemy armor damage of 13%. Now this could be a little bit higher if I could put enemy armor damage on my gloves. My max health is pretty low at 231,000. That's why sniper builds are made to be played from distance. The armor mitigation is only 32%. It's almost maxed out at 33%, but it's not quite there. This build is not fully optimized. So that pretty much wraps up my build, guys. If you guys have any questions on my build video, use the comment section down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up. And as always, guys, if you don't see me in Last Stand, if you don't see me in the Dark Zone, if you don't see me in Skirmish, it's only a matter of time. Nothing but skills is out.